Hey, it's Carl from artofshred.com, and I am here with the Squire Classic Vibe 60s JAZZMASTER in Sonic Blue. Now let me state right off the bat that JAZZMASTERs are not for everyone. They are, for example, they're kind of noisy, they have some quirks. So that said, I wouldn't recommend them for beginners. But so who are they for? Well, let's explore that. But first, let's talk about this JAZZMASTER. I bought it from Musician's Friend, which is a company I've been shopping with since they were catalog only back in the 90s. I'm not getting paid to say that, of course. I bought this JAZZMASTER with my own money, and I don't get paid whether you buy a JAZZMASTER or not because of this video or this review. Anyway, the out-of-box experience was less than stellar. I had glue on the fretboard, a little small chip on the fretboard, a small paint imperfection in the body, and none of these things affect playability or really affect the guitar much. They're just kind of annoying. Like, it's going to take me time to clean up all the glue on the neck or on the fretboard. And the other things are kind of, you just got to live with them. So, it's annoying. I think I'm just going to speculate it's because of overwhelming demand for guitars. Quality control inspections are maybe not up to snuff always, and things slip through the cracks. I was one of the lucky ones, I guess you could say, who got one of the slipped through the crack guitars. I don't mind even string buzz and stuff like that, things that I can fairly easily fix. The other things are just kind of annoying, and I wish they weren't there. I will say Musician's Friend was great. Again, I'm not getting paid for this, but I called them and they immediately offered to exchange the guitar or just refund it. Obviously I wanted the guitar, but they also offered a small refund instead of the return or instead of the exchange, and I took that, and here's why. Well, a lot of the other problems a lot of people seem to complain about with JAZZMASTERs, I didn't have. Most, I think importantly, was like string slippage at the bridge. Doesn't seem to be a problem. The guitar plays well, feels good. And beyond that, neck was straight, no fret sprout, all that type of stuff was good. All the playability type of stuff was good. So I decided that I would keep this guitar, clean up all the problems that I could, and we'll go from there. So this guitar, as I'm showing you, is mostly pre-set up. The one thing I did was there was some fret buzz, so I adjusted the bridge up just a little bit. So the action at the 12th fret is still below 2 millimeters, but it's a little bit higher than it came from the factory. Now, from the factory, it was the bridge was just flush with the pickguard. So you might have that problem too. If you've got some fret buzz, your action might be too low, even though the frets are all good and everything's all good there, like I had with this one. And another thing I did with this guitar is on the trem, I wrapped it in some plumbing tape, which is like $1, and for a roll, because the trem is very loose on these. So even with the plumbing tape, it's still a little bit loose, but it doesn't rattle as much, it doesn't fall out as much. So I did that as well. That all said, I am convinced that people are a little bit crazy with the upgrades they deem necessary on a JAZZMASTER. Very common upgrades for these things are replacing basically all the hardware, replacing the whole trem system, replacing the bridge, the saddles, and adding a shim to the neck. A shim is basically a little piece of, you take the neck off, you put a little sliver of angled wood to give the neck a little bit of an angle. And what that does is, I don't know if you can catch this, but the angle from the strings to the saddles here, there's like almost no angle. And that can maybe introduce some noise, can cause that previously mentioned string slippage problem, which I don't have with this one. So I'm going to do that upgrade in video 2 of this review. Subscribe to check that out. But I don't think it's necessary. I'm doing it because I do think it might affect playability in a positive way, but we'll see. You know, a lot of people talk about Leo Fender designing these guitars, needing that shim, and I don't think that's true. There's no verifiable information about him talking about that. He only died 30 years ago, so he had ample opportunity to discuss why he would release a guitar that's unfinished. And when you really think about it, think about what a terrible business decision that is, to release an expensive product that is unfinished and expect the end user to fix it because for whatever reason you don't want to add a little 5-cent piece of wood to give your your neck an angle. It doesn't make any logical sense. You'll see it written about on pretty much like every article about Jazzmasters, how Leo designed them like this, but there's no verifiable information, so take that how you will. All right, let's talk about the specs of the Jazzmaster. First off, made in Indonesia. It's got 21 frets, these vintage style tuners, which if you know me, I would replace them with vintage style locking tuners. You get better tuning stability and it makes changing strings a lot easier. Is it an absolute requirement? No, but for me personally, it's what I prefer pretty much on any guitar. And especially when you've got kind of lower priced instruments, I think it helps a lot. This isn't super low price. These are $400 to $500, and these tuners aren't terrible. You know, that's up to you if you want to spend the $100 or so to install locking tuners. Bone nut, 21 frets, and really, let's talk about just really the important quirks of the Jazzmaster, which are the pickups and the rhythm selector, or the rhythm and lead circuit, which is unique to these guitars. So first off, these pickups, although they look like P90s, are single coil pickups. They're, Fender designed single coil. They're not, the traditional single coil, obviously, that you see, but they are single coil pickups. Next is the real uniqueness, I think, to the Jazzmaster is the rhythm and lead selector. So when it's up, it's in rhythm position, and your pickup switch doesn't work, and your volume and tone down here don't work. You've got a volume and tone right over here for the leads, for the rhythm circuit. And the rhythm circuit gives you and it's only the neck pickup that works. The rhythm circuit gives you kind of a darker tone. So you can, if you switch it down to lead, and you've got the pickup selector towards the headstock, you're only using the neck pickup as well, but it's a different tone than when you're in the rhythm circuit. So a unique kind of quality to the Jazzmaster I think is pretty cool. Anyway, when you're down in lead position with the rhythm lead switch down, the pickup selector works just like any other guitar. That position is neck pickup, middle position, both pickups. That position is just the bridge pickup, and volume and tone work as normal. So that's the kind of brief rundown of the rhythm and lead circuits on the Jazzmaster. So that all said, how do you know if they're for you? Well, I would ask myself 3 questions. Number 1, do you mind a kind of noisy guitar? Now, single coils are noisy a little bit anyway, 60 cycle hum. JAZZMASTERs, because of the design, can introduce a little bit extra noise. Like these strings back here, they kind of ring out when you're playing, and that introduces a little bit of noise. Now, I think, and I think a lot of other people think, that's part of the charm of these guitars, but for you, it might be an annoyance. Now, as far as the hum, also, if you use the middle position on the pickup selector, it cancels that hum. It's not, I don't think it's the most common position to play these, but just a note. Number 2, are you comfortable doing a setup or paying someone to do a setup for you? Now, this is the case pretty much with really any guitar you buy, honestly. They rarely arrive perfect, but I think JAZZMASTERs do maybe have some quirks that other guitars don't have, just because of the design and the trem system and stuff like that. So honestly, I think the most likely scenario is you just have to do the couple things that I did, which is raise the bridge to get the string height a little bit higher, to get rid of the fret buzz, and wrap the trem bar in some plumbing tape to stop it from rattling and falling out. Very simple things to raise the bridge height, and unfortunately they don't come with the 1.5 millimeter Allen key that you need, but yeah, you need a 1.5 millimeter Allen key to stick in the holes here on the sides, and twist the Allen key and it raises and lowers the bridge. Very simple. Now, number 3 is, do you like how it looks? Because now, generally, for almost everything, I am a function over form guy. I care a lot less how something looks, and I care a lot more about how it performs. That said, not everybody likes the style of these guitars, and I love them. I love how they look. I love how offsets in general look. So, I'm, I guess, biased as far as that is concerned. But if you, hate how it looks, it's not going to be as enjoyable for you to play. Obviously, I think that goes for every guitar, but I do think maybe it comes into play a little bit more with a guitar like a JAZZMASTER. Finally, that all said, 2 things. 1, if you want to see the setup I do and the sound demo after that setup, please subscribe. Helps a lot. Like this video, all that fun stuff. Let's get to the sound demo. All right, so there it is, the Classic Vibe 60s JAZZMASTER by Squire. What are my kind of final thoughts? Well, as I mentioned earlier, I really like this guitar. I like how it feels. I like how it sounds. And I like the kind of sounds you can get out of it. But just to reiterate, I don't think it should be your first guitar. If anything, it should be your second guitar. Because going back to kind of the quirks, I think it would frustrate most beginners. Like, I think this guitar, as nice as it is, if it had been my first guitar, I think it would have been a little frustrating. Now, that is a personal preference. So for you, if you're looking for your first guitar, maybe the JAZZMASTER is it. I can't say for sure, but I think as a general blanket statement, you'd be safe to say, don't get it as your first guitar. But the Classic Vibe is it's a really nice JAZZMASTER. So I think that's it. Now, I haven't set this guitar up yet. So if you want to see that video, it should be linked here once it's live. And make sure to subscribe and all of that fun stuff. It really helps a lot. Thank you, and see you next time.